I learned the rule on the first night I moved in. Do not open the door after midnight, no matter who is on the other side. Not even if they say a name loved more than life. Not even if they cry like a child and cough like the old. The landlord told me that with a straight face, like saying no smoking or keep the noise down. I laughed a little, then saw his eyes. He was not joking. He looked tired. He looked like a man who had watched people ignore a rule and then pay for it. I had just broken up with someone I thought would be forever. The apartment was small and cheap and close to the bus route. The floor had a hollow sound. The windows were old, but it was clean, and I needed clean. I needed a place where I could cry without someone asking, "Are you okay?" I needed walls that did not remember my old life. The landlord showed me the kitchen, the bedroom with the creaky ceiling fan, and the door with 2 deadbolts and a chain. He handed me keys and the rule. "After midnight," he said, "if you hear it, you'll want to open. But do not." I asked what it was. He pressed his mouth into a thin line. "You'll know it when it comes." It was late October, the air sharp and the trees bare like black bones. At night, kids walked the sidewalks in cheap masks and bright plastic fangs. I bought a real pumpkin and a small fake one with a light inside. I set them both in the window because I wanted something warm that could not leave me. Work was slow. My phone buzzed with messages from friends who said kind things but felt like people on the far side of a lake. I tried to sleep early. I tried to eat. I tried to be brave inside a quiet room. The first knock came on a Monday night, sometime after the streets had gone quiet. I was awake, trying not to think, staring at the ceiling fans wobble. The knock was soft, polite, like someone who did not want to bother anyone. I sat up. Another knock, gentle. "Hello?" A girl's voice said. "Please, I'm sorry." I dropped something. "It rolled under your door. I can see it." I froze. Who knocks at that hour for something that rolled under the door? The building hall was thin and dusty. The bottom of my door had no gap. My breath made a small cloud in the light from the fake pumpkin. The voice trembled. "I know it is late, please." The person sniffed like she was crying. It made my chest ache. I was always the one who opened, who helped. That was my curse. The reason my heart kept getting broken. Because helping felt like love, and love felt like hunger. I went to the peephole. The hall light was dim, yellow like old teeth. No one there, but the voice was close, right against the wood. "Please," she said. "It's a little silver locket. It has a picture of my mother inside." I swallowed. I could hear the soft thud of her forehead resting against the door. She was trying to be quiet. She was suffering and trying to be good. I put my hand on the top bolt. My fingers were shaking. Then I saw the landlord's eyes in my mind. "Do not open." The chain glinted. I stepped back. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "I can't." A long silence. Then very softly, "Okay." Footsteps, faint. Then nothing. I slept with the light on. The next night I was ready, or thought I was. I wore my thick hoodie and sat on the couch, hands around a mug I did not drink. The pumpkin lights glowed like weak suns. I should have put books on the floor, called a friend, played a loud movie. Instead, I listened to the clock tick and my own breath. When the knock came, it was faster. "Please." This time a boy, young. His voice was raw, like he had been shouting. "My dog, he ran inside your place. He's small and black and his name is Pepper. He's scared." I went to the peephole again. Nothing. Just the yellow hall and the scuffed floor and the stain that looked like a shoe stepped on a berry. I wanted to cry from the strange, heavy feeling inside me. "Pepper," the boy said, and whistled, sweet and soft. "Come here." Then he whispered, "Please, he doesn't like strangers. If you open just a little, just a tiny bit, he will come out. Do not open, but the mind is a traitor." It told me, maybe the landlord is superstitious. Maybe he tells everyone this because he hates to be woken at night. Maybe the door is special to him because it is old and he thinks it keeps the building safe. Maybe this is a test, and the right answer is to be kind, not cruel. "Please," the boy said again, and his voice turned small. "He's the only good thing I have." My eyes stung. I thought of my breakup, of the one good thing I had, and how it had slipped out of my hands like rain. "I'm sorry," I said, and meant it. I leaned my head against the door. The wood was warm. Was it warm because someone was on the other side? The boy's breath caught. Then a whisper, "Okay." The sound of a small laugh, like a sob held tight. It hurt to hear. His steps faded. I slept with the TV on but did not hear what the people said. Midweek, when decorations were going up and the line between laughing and crying felt thin, the knock came like a frantic heartbeat. I stood so fast the chair fell and made a sharp sound. The voice that came was the worst one. Not a girl, not a boy, not a stranger. It said my name. The name only one person said that way. It was my ex's voice, with that old warmth and that little smile inside it. "Open up," it said, soft. "It's me." The mug fell from my hand and rolled under the table. I stood by the door, shaking. I put my eye to the peephole and saw nothing. Nothing at all. Not even the yellow light. The hall beyond was a black mouth. "Please," the voice said, gentle, teasing. "I know you're there. I can feel your heartbeat." That last line made my skin crawl. My ex would never say that. Not like that. But the voice kept going, sweet and cruel. It told me little memories only we knew. The time we missed the last train and slept in the station. The song we danced to in a kitchen that smelled like burnt toast. The way we would touch foreheads when the world was too loud. I had to sit down on the floor. The wood was cold through my sweatpants. "You left," I said before I could stop myself. "You left and let me drown." There was a long quiet, and the voice on the other side said, "I came back for you." "Open the door." I put my hand on the chain and felt it like a vein. I thought, if I open, what am I letting in? The version of love that wants to win? The version that wins by chewing? The kind that tastes like metal? Then the voice changed. It became the landlord's. "Everything's fine," it said, same tired tone as when he said rent was due. "Just checking. Please unlock." I wanted it to stop. The pressure, the ache, the feeling that the door was getting thinner. I slid down further until my shoulder pressed against the base. The wood there was not warm anymore. It was cold and a little damp. On the other side, something moved. I heard fingers tap against the seam, like a piano practicing. The holiday night was noisy. Kids and teens filled the halls. A party down the block thumped like a heart too big for its chest. I bought candy and set it in a bowl by the door for early kids, but once the late hours arrived, I swore I would ignore everything. I called my mother and said I loved her. Then I turned off the lights, left the pumpkin glow, and sat on the floor facing the door. I put a blanket around my shoulders like armor. I thought about all the times I had opened too fast. I thought about rules and whether following them could make a person new. The first knock came soft and patient. "Please," a woman said. "I am lost." Then a man. I forgot my keys. A child. "I'm scared." A voice that sounded like mine. "Let me in." Then voices stacked like clouds stack, turning black. They whispered and called and laughed with no humor. They told me stories about the world outside the door. The hallway flooding, the building burning, the police standing there. They told me my landlord had collapsed and needed help, right there in the hall, his breath short, his eyes wide. I cried and shook and pressed my palms to my ears. But sound finds its way in through the cracks. Everything stopped. The silence was big. Then the smallest sound, the brush of paper from under the door. I flinched back. My mind flashed the first night, the silver locket that could not roll under the door. This time there was something under my door. A slip of paper, old and thin. I stared. The paper smelled like wet leaves. It had a single line written in a child's careful hand. "If you open, you will see everyone you lost." I wanted to tear it up and eat it and crush it under my heel. I wanted to believe it. "No," I whispered, voice shaking like glass. "I do not want to see everyone I lost. I want to see the ones who stayed." The paper slid back out by itself, slow. Then, so softly I almost missed it, something on the other side laughed like a baby trying to speak. The chain started to move. Not the bolts, the chain. It lifted, link by link, as if someone was sliding it up slowly, enjoying it. But my hands were on the chain. I held it down. The metal was cold and burned my palms. I thought of all those times before when someone pushed and I gave way. Not tonight, not with the pumpkins like eyes in the air smelling like knives. It pulled. I pulled back. The chain made a little ringing sound, a song of struggle. I whispered, "No." The voice on the other side whispered back, "Yes." Then the chain did something chains do not do. It bent like soft wire. It stretched out toward the door frame, toward a crack I had never seen. 'The lock groaned. I cried out. "Stop," I said. "I am lost." Then the chain did something chains do not do. It bent like soft wire. It stretched out toward the door frame, toward a crack I had never seen. The lock groaned. I cried out. "Stop," I said. "I am lost." Then the chain did something chains do not do. It bent like soft wire. It stretched out toward the door frame, toward a crack I had never seen. The lock groaned. I cried out. "Stop," I said. to the thing and to myself and to the house and to the loneliness that wanted to be fed with anything at all. Then, just as my grip went weak, there was another sound in the hall. Footsteps. Real ones. Heavy and fast. A key in the neighbor's door. Someone swore. A deadbolt thumped. The other thing froze. The chain fell into my hands like a fish that stops fighting. I pressed my ear hard against the wood. On the other side, something breathed. It was not like a person. It was like wind in a bottle. It did not move away. It could wait, I understood. It had all the time in this building's bones. There came a single knock, polite, as on the first night. Then a single word. Please. I closed my eyes. The hallway beyond the peephole was dark again, a mouth that never got full. No, I said. No. Long minutes passed. The pumpkin lights flickered like tired stars. The night kept going, slow but certain. Later, the landlord's voice came through the wall, faint, with another voice low beside it. You hear it? He asked someone. A hum answered. New tenant, he said, and there was a sigh like sorrow. Their steps moved away. I did not sleep that night. I stayed by the door until gray light came and the birds outside started their scratchy talk. When morning pulled itself up, I stood on shaking legs, washed my face, and went to work. For the next week, the knocking came and went, like tides. Some nights were quiet, some were long. The voices learned new tricks. They sounded like news, like friends, like my own father, who has been dead for 5 years. I'm back, that voice said. Open. It's me. I pressed my face against the wood and cried and whispered, no. The rule was not just about safety. It was about the kind of door inside me, the one that opened to pain because pain wore familiar shoes, the one that swung wide when the right voice came. Every night I kept the chain. I rebuilt something in myself, link by link. The holiday came and went. The pumpkins rotted. The smell turned sweet and sour. I threw them out and bought a plant that was very hard to kill. I watered it and put it near the window where the light is kind even on bad days. One night in late November, the knocking did not come. It did not come the next night either. The silence felt different. Not deep, just normal. I stood by the door, then laughed at myself. Maybe it was done. Maybe I had passed whatever test the house or the thing or my own heart had set. It was a Thursday when the last visit came. There was no knock, only a slow scrape like someone dragging their fingernails down the door from top to bottom. It made my teeth ache. Then came a whisper with so many voices in it that I could not tell them apart. Hundreds. They layered and layered until they sounded like a river. Open, it said. Just once, just a little. We will be gentle. I walked to the door and laid my palm flat. It was burning hot, like a fever. No, I said, calm now, like speaking to a child who wants to run into the street. No, the voices made a sound like rain hitting water. Then, soft, the very first girl again, the one with the locket. I am cold, she said. Please. Something in me shifted. Not the part that gives in, the part that grieves. I know, I whispered, throat tight. I know you are cold. I slid down and sat with my back against the door, the way people sit with a friend in a hospital room when there's nothing to do but stay. I stayed like that for a long time. I told the wood little things about my day, about the plant and the bus driver who wears a bright scarf, and the way the winter sun looks like a thin coin. The voices said nothing. The heat left the wood. It became just a door again. Dawn was pale and patient. When it came, I stood, pressed my forehead to the door and said, goodbye. The word felt like pulling a splinter. Sometimes late there is a sound like a sigh in the hall. Sometimes a neighbor drops their keys and my heart leaps. But the knocking stopped. The voices lost my shape. I keep the rule because it keeps me. Do not open after midnight. Not for the child, not for the dog, not for the one who left, not for the one who died. If there is a thing that waits outside, it feeds on the kindest parts of us. The parts that answer, the parts that forgive before they think. That does not mean kindness is wrong. It means sometimes kindness is staying on the safe side of the door and talking softly through the wood until the night passes. On Halloween, I still put a pumpkin in the window. It is a small sun in a small room, and when the clock turns mean and the world outside grows hungry, I sit with my back against the door, my hand on the chain, my heart in my throat, listening, not opening. And every time I do, the person inside me who learned the rule grows a little stronger, and the person outside, whatever it is, grows a little less patient, a little less sure that I will ever let it in. People in Ridgefield still talk about the night the radio station begged the town to stop answering their phones. Not because of a scam, not because of a storm alert, but because the calls were not coming from people anymore. They said if a phone rang after dark, do not pick up, even if the screen showed a name that made the heart run. The final broadcast cut out mid-sentence, and the silence afterward felt like a mouth closing over the whole town. I started working at WRFJ Ridgefield in the fall, a small local station between the diner and the bus depot. The building looked tired but kind, like an older friend who understands. I worked nights, answering calls, queuing songs, and reading little stories people sent in about lost cats, yard sales, and the weird things the lake sometimes did when the wind blew wrong. I was not from here. I had moved to Ridgefield because a person I loved left and took the air with them. And this town, this tiny job with its steady schedule and coffee that tasted like burnt pennies, looked like a place where air might come back. The station was one room with a soundboard, a bright red on-air sign, and walls lined with foam that made my voice sound softer than it was. There was a small window looking out to the streetlight, and at night, moths threw themselves at the glass like they wanted to learn a new sky. The day host, Gene, had a gentle way with callers that made even bad news sound like an old song. Before he left each evening, he would tap the board twice, like knocking on wood, and say, "Keep the night company." It made me feel less alone. On my third week, the phone lines started acting strange. Calls came in with no caller ID, just a blank space where a name or number should be. When I picked up, there would be breath, close, not rushed, followed by the faintest scratching, like someone writing with a dull pencil. Once a child whispered, "Is it safe to come out?" My throat closed. "Where are you?" I asked, but the line dissolved into the same soft scratch. I told Gene in the morning. He frowned, then shrugged like a man who has lived in enough small towns to know that strangeness is just another crop some fields grow. The next night, the calls multiplied. In between songs, the line blinked and blinked. Sometimes there was chatter like a crowd in another room. Sometimes there was the sound of distant water. Sometimes the caller said my name, though I had not given it. "Please," one voice said, neither man nor woman, like a radio between stations. "Please tell them to answer. We can't get in unless they answer." I reported it to the county switchboard and got a tech on the line who told me storms can cause phantom rings. Wires can cross, databases can glitch, words that made the world feel normal. It helped until the phone flashed the name of my mother, who does not live in Ridgefield, whose number I knew like a prayer. The ring was wrong, too slow, too kind, but the name was hers. I answered, heart fierce. "Mom?" I said. There was a pause and then, calm as prayer, "Tell them to answer." I dropped the receiver. The studio felt smaller, the foam closer, the air packed with moth dust. I shut off the phone lines for a minute and played a long song, one of those old ones with a chorus that makes people think of summer. When the song ended, I picked up a call from an older woman who had been listening to WRFJ since before I was born. "Sweetheart," she said, "I just got a call from my husband. He has been gone 7 years. He sounds good. He says he's cold and the door is stuck. Should I go check the garage?" She laughed, a tiny, careful sound. I know it's silly. I did not know what to say, and then I did. "Please don't go check," I said, soft. "Please lock the door, sit down, and wait until morning." She was quiet. "All right," she said, "I can do that." The sheriff came by the station the next day with eyes red from no sleep. He asked if we had been messing with folks, if this was some Halloween gag. Gene's mouth went tight. "We don't do gags," he said, and the sheriff nodded like he already knew but needed to say the words to keep the world tidy. He told us they had got dozens of reports, phones ringing with old names, new names, strangers, family, numbers that matched and didn't, with voices that knew favorite foods and hospital wristband numbers and the color of the fence behind a house on River Road. They told folks to ignore it. But the department was small, and people do what they do when the night gets teeth. The next evening, I opened the show with a line I wrote on a sticky note with a shaking hand. "If anyone is getting strange calls after dark, please do not pick up. We'll share updates when we have them. For now, keep the doors locked, keep each other close, and let the phone ring." The on-air light felt brighter. like a small lighthouse that knew it could not move the rocks but still wanted to be useful. Calls poured in anyway. A boy said his grandma's number called, and when he answered, there was the sound of her kitchen clock and her voice asking if he had eaten. A woman said her newborn's name spoke from a blocked ID, and when she asked who was calling, the voice said, "The part of you that misses me." A man cried on the phone because his brother's galloping laugh played for a full minute and then turned into something that was not a laugh. Between songs, I stacked index cards with notes. Do not answer calls. Call 911 if someone is at the door. Wait for morning. Wait for morning. Then the line lit with the station manager's number even though he was standing right beside me, leaning on the door frame with his thermos. He raised his eyebrows, curious, then looked at his own phone. It was dark and still. "Let it ring," he said, "but curiosity is loud." I answered on speaker, the two of us close as if warmth could be shared like a blanket. Static. A breath, then my own voice. "If anyone is getting strange calls after dark, please do not pick up." The recording was the one I had just done. It continued but shifted, becoming warmer, kinder, more pleading. My voice, but trained to squeeze. Please pick up," it said. "I'm locked out." The station manager reached and pressed the line down with a sharp motion like cutting thread. We looked at each other. No one joked. That was the night the town's power flickered. Not off exactly, dim like a heartbeat. The streetlight outside went softer. The moths slowed their wings. The on-air sign hummed, and the phones began to ring in a pattern, one line after another, not random but like a hand running down piano keys. On the call-in screen, names bloomed and vanished. Dad, home, unknown, private, sheriff, mom, mom, mom. The red light of the main line glowed steady and bright. It felt like a sunrise that did not care about the sun. I took the mic and said the only thing that felt true. "Ridgefield, if the phone rings, please let it ring." I spoke slowly, like walking on winter ice. "We will stay with you until morning. We will play songs, you know. We will read the names you love in a way the night cannot steal. But please, please do not answer." Something in the studio leaned in. The foam on the walls felt like ears. I played music and read small notes people had mailed months ago. To my brother, "You fixed my bike and never told anyone I cried." To my sister, "You said the sky was a bowl and I believed you for too long." I read them out loud, little love notes to ordinary days. While I read, the main line kept flashing the name of my ex. It used the nickname only he used. The letters looked like a hand tapping the glass. There is a kind of tired that makes a person reckless. Near midnight's heavy middle, I reached for the line and stopped, my fingers trembling above the button like birds. If I answered, maybe it would hurt less. Maybe it would explain why Air leaves and does not come back. Maybe it would be his laugh, the one that always started low like a secret. Or maybe it would be something that laughed and learned to make my bones want to open. I lowered my hand and cried, soft, so the mic wouldn't catch it. A caller came through without the board lighting up. No ring, just a voice in the room, not through the phone at all. "Thank you for keeping them from the door," it said. I looked around and saw no one. The sound was close and far, like someone humming in a stairwell. "Who are you?" I asked, and the voice made a sound like papers turning. "The part of this town that does not want to be eaten." It sounded tired, like Jean, or the sheriff. "Or the foam. Please keep speaking," it said. "They can only crawl where there is silence." The air shifted. I understood in a way that bypassed sense. Sound was a fence. The station's hum, the human voice, songs sung for each other. These were lines the dark could not cross without taking on the shape of what it hated. So I spoke. I talked about the diner's neon sign that hums even at noon. I talked about the man who always waves at the bus even when it's empty. I described the lake at dawn, the way fog sits like the town is thinking. I played songs that people used to hold hands in kitchens. The main line kept trying to become a mouth. It did not get to. Near the hardest part of the night, something slammed against the studio window. The moths scattered. A shadow pressed its full shape to the glass, too flat for a body, too wide for a person, like a spill trying to make sense of itself. The on-air sign flickered. Jean's lucky knock sounded from no hand at all. Two soft taps on the board. "Keep the night company," said a dozen voices together, and the shadow pulled itself into distance, not defeated, but patient. The sheriff called through the back door, not the phone, his voice thin with cold. "We're telling folks to unplug their phones," he said. And some of the older ones are just taking the cord out of the wall. We're sending deputies house to house. He looked at the boards like they were holy. Keep doing whatever you're doing, so I did. I read berths and bus schedules and the words on a paper menu for a restaurant that closed years ago. I spelled out the names of the town's streets slowly, like prayer beads. The room warmed with breath and static. And then quietly, like a door easing shut, the main line stopped flashing. One by one, the lights stilled. The streetlight outside brightened like a thought remembered. The moths went back to their small smashing. Morning came gray and ordinary. The phones sat like sleeping animals. The sheriff wrote up a notice that said there had been a network issue and folks should report any suspicious calls to the county office. People nodded. People shook their heads. People told each other the station kept them safe, and others said it was just one night like any other, with wind and a story. As for me, I went home to my little rental and slept with the radio on a timer so it would keep murmuring as I fell. For a while, Ridgefield got quiet again. Then, around the end of the month, calls started returning. Not many, a trickle, but different now. They did not try to be family, not at first. They tried to be help. "City office," one voice said, friendly as a flyer. "Press 1 if you need warmth." "County alert," another said, promising safety if a door was opened or a window lifted. More clever, less personal, like something had learned that people resist grief but obey duty. We changed the broadcast. We stopped saying, "Do not answer after dark," and started saying, "If any voice on the phone asks for entrance at night, let it wait until morning, even if it sounds like someone kind." We taught the town a phrase, "We can talk through the door." People started saying it on their porches to anyone who knocked late. It felt good to say. It sounded like love that had learned a boundary. The last broadcast came on a wind-bitten night when the signal itself began to stutter. The room snapped with little sounds like popcorn. Something on the other side of the soundproof wall breathed in time with me. I held the mic and told a story about a boy who learned to ride a bike on Birch Street and fell and still kept getting up because his father's voice made the scraped knees feel like candles instead of cuts. The signal cleared when the story turned sweet and went fuzzy when it turned scared. Like the dark-hated comfort worst of all. Gene stood in the doorway with his thermos and made a small motion with his hand. "End it gently." I nodded. I took a breath that tasted like dust and coffee and said, "Ridgefield, it is almost morning. If a phone rings tonight, let it sing a song you do not have to dance to. If a voice asks for a door, tell it the door is a promise you keep for daylight. We will be here with you until the sun is on the sidewalks. We can talk through the door." The on-air sign brightened, as if it understood. I cued the final track, an old hymn that isn't about church so much as a kitchen light. The main line flashed one last time with no name, only a blank that felt like a hole. I reached for the button and stopped. I leaned close to the mic and whispered, for the town and for the thing and for the person I had been before I learned how to keep. No. The phones went still. The hymn rose. The shadow outside the window thinned like steam. The broadcast ended on time, not cut, not torn, just finished, like a story that knew when to stop. In the weeks that followed, the calls eased to a whisper, then a sigh, then memory. People still keep their phones unplugged at night. Neighbors talk more softly through doors. The diner's neon hum sounds steadier. The lake wears its fog like a scarf instead of a shroud. Sometimes, late, I wake in the quiet and think the phone will ring with a name I miss. It doesn't, but I have learned to keep a sentence ready for the night, just in case. We can talk through the door. And when morning comes, it always does, I turn on the radio and let the voices fill the room with ordinary light. People say the Briarwood Motel remembers the names of the people who cry there. Not because the staff are friendly or the walls are thin, but because the snow outside the rooms lies flat like paper and keeps every word that falls from a mouth that is breaking. If someone whispers a goodbye in room 12, the snow on the parking lot will write it back in footprints no one made. That is what the night clerk told me when he slid the key across the counter and said, "Keep the curtains closed if the wind starts to sing." I did not come to the motel for a ghost story. I came because the road was bad and the town where I was supposed to sleep had turned off its lights early. And because the person I loved stopped answering messages last week in a way that felt like a door closing, slow, quiet, not angry, just sure. I was driving with too much coffee and not enough sense, and when the snow began to fall like breath on glass, The Briarwood's red sign looked like a small kindness. Vacancy, it said. The word felt like a laugh aimed at me. The night clerk was a thin man with a warm coat he did not take off. His hair was close-cropped, his eyes careful. He handed me a key that felt heavy for its size. The brass tag said 12. "It's clean," he said like an apology. He added almost as an afterthought, "If someone knocks after midnight asking for the window, tell them you don't have one." His mouth twitched. "Even though you do." The hallway smelled like lemon cleaner and rain boots. Room 12 had a soft bedspread printed with little blue leaves, a window that looked out on the parking lot, a small table with a lamp that leaned. There was a note on the dresser with the Wi-Fi password, and in different handwriting, a short sentence. "Please don't talk back to the glass." I set down my bag and sat on the edge of the bed. The quiet felt thick. The heater made a sound like a sigh that changed shape every few minutes, as if someone were thinking. I told myself I would sleep, wake early, and drive the last miles to the town I had meant to reach, the one where my sister lived, the one where I could sit in a kitchen and be unremarkable and loved. I told myself that tomorrow everything would settle like snow settles when the wind stops trying to have an opinion. But the wind did not stop. It rose, patient and careful, and traced itself around the building with the confidence of a pen that knows the shape of the letter it is writing. The curtain moved a little, though the window was closed tight. From outside came the sound of a plow in the distance, the scrape of metal on road like a spoon against a bowl. Then, while I was brushing my teeth with the small cup by the sink, I heard it, a soft tap on the window. Not a knock, a tap, like someone testing a pane with a fingertip to see if it's still there. I went very still. The mirror over the sink showed a tired face with toothpaste foam like snow at the lip. I rinsed, dried my mouth, and walked to the window, stopping just short of the curtain. The tapping came again, gentle, polite, the way someone touches a sleeping shoulder to wake it without scare. I swallowed and spoke to the air, keeping my voice low and even. "The office is open at the front," I said. "If you need something." The tapping paused, then a voice came through the glass. It did not sound muffled. It sounded like a mouth near my ear. "Please," it said. "I'm cold." It was not a child's voice. It was not a man's or a woman's. It was the voice people use when they are trying very hard to ask for little. A voice that does not want to trouble anyone. The kind that makes a person's heart move before their feet do. I put my hand on the curtain, then remembered the clerk's eyes when he said, "Keep them closed if the wind starts to sing." I let my hand fall. "I can call the desk," I offered. "They have blankets." The voice waited a beat too long, then said, "I don't want blankets." The way it said "want" made the air cold in my throat. "I want to see you." I stepped back. The heater sighed. A crack popped in the wall, the sort old buildings make when they adjust to being old. I sat on the bed and counted my breaths and the seconds between taps. When they stopped for a long time, I turned the TV on low and found a weather report full of arrows and frowns. The towns to the north were closed by snow. The towns to the south were open but not friendly. The Briarwood stood on a line between places and decided, as a motel does, to be a place for the people who could not pick a place. Sometime after the weatherman said the storm would ease by morning, the tapping began again. This time the voice used a different trick. It said my name. First the full name almost no one uses, then the nickname only one person used with care. The sound slipped under my skin like a pin through cloth. "Please," it said, and the way it shaped that one word was like my favorite song played on an old radio. Cracked. "Dear. Too much." I stood and put my face very close to the curtain, not touching. "How do you know my name?" I asked, calm as I could make it. The answer came quick, like a smile. "You told me," it said. "You always tell me everything, even the parts that hurt. Memory is a dangerous room." I stepped away from it. "You're not him," I said. The laugh that followed made me think of glass being breathed on. "I can be," it said. "If you open." The heater clicked off. The silence that followed had shape and weight. From down the hall came the sound of a door opening and closing quick. I imagined another guest walking fast, eyes down, not looking at any window, knowing more than me because they had stayed here before and learned the trick of not making eye contact with the night. The curtain moved again, though the air was still. Then the voice tried something new. It spoke from the door. The knock was gentle, the kind a friend uses before they let themselves in. Front desk, it said, pleasant, practiced. Checking on your heat. I stared at the door and saw the shadow under it, thin and straight. I checked the peephole. The hallway was empty. The voice at the door went quiet, then the voice at the window smiled again. 2 doors, it said. Everyone is so lucky to have 2 doors. I did not sleep. I lay on the bed with my shoes on, and the lamp on, and the TV low, and the room that smell of lemon and rain boots and snow pushing against the glass like a thought trying to become a decision. Somewhere around the hour when a person makes mistakes, I got up and wrote on the motel notepad the 2 rules the world seemed to be giving me tonight. Do not open the door. Do not talk back to the glass. I circled them. I underlined the second. I put the paper under the lamp as if light would pin it. When the wind stilled for a moment, the voice came softly, like a lullaby sung by a neighbor to someone else's child. I am so tired, it said. Let me rest where it is warm. I almost answered. Instead, I nodded like someone listening through a church wall nods to a prayer they recognize and cannot join. Then the voice surprised me. It said, small and very human, please. I know you are sad. The words were not a trick. They were a knife that wanted to be a blanket. My knees went weak. I sat. I thought of the last text I sent that went gray and stayed gray. I thought of the way the world tilts when someone good stops answering. How every door feels heavier because the hand that used to open it with you is not on the other handle anymore. Yes, I said before I remembered not to talk back to glass. I am. The window made a sound like a kiss without a mouth. Then let me in, it whispered. I can be the answer to your door. Sometimes a person does the right thing because they remembered a rule in time. Sometimes they do it because something small breaks in a way that lets light through. What broke in me was not hope. It was a rope called Fix It. The part of me that had been running in circles trying to fix things sat down like a tired dog. I wiped my eyes. I looked at the notepad. I put my palm on the table and felt the cheap wood grain like a map I could follow. Line, 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 stop. I spoke carefully, as if reading a script written by a gentler version of myself. You can rest on the snow, I said. You can rest under the moon. You can rest everywhere I can't see. The window went very quiet. The heater turned on again with a burp. Not kind, the voice said at last, and for the first time I heard something like its own ache, as if being what it was hurt. Not cruel, I answered, surprising us both. The rest of the night stretched like a bridge. Sometimes the tapping came back, soft as moth wings. Sometimes it grew angry and rapped hard enough to make the glass tremble, and the heater would whine like a dog that does not like storms. Once, something brushed the door in a slow, full-body way, as if trying to feel the shape of how it was barred. But nothing opened. The lamp stayed on. I breathed. I did not speak. The wind sang and then forgot the words. Near morning, when the gray that isn't light yet, but is also not dark, settled in the room, the tapping stopped for good. The silence lay down. Outside, I heard the plow again, closer now, working the parking lot with steady purpose. I stood and pulled the curtain a careful inch, expecting something with teeth or a mirror of my own face waiting. What I saw made my breath jump. The snow outside room 12 was marked with footprints from the door to the window and back, again and again. But they were not footprints like a person makes. They were like the absence of a person. The snow was smooth in the shape of step after step, impressed without edges, each one exactly the same, as if photocopied by weather. Between the window and the road, a line of smoother snow wrote a sentence I could not read until I squinted and let my eyes go soft like you must to see old constellations. It said, "Please don't talk back to the glass." I let the curtain fall. I stood with my hands open and empty like I was waiting for rain inside a room. There was a knock on my door, real, warm, a human knock that came in 3, then a pause, then 2. I checked the peephole. The night clerk stood there with a thermos and a knit cap. I opened the door a crack with the chain on. His breath made little clouds. He looked past my shoulder to the window and made the smallest nod, like someone nods to a gravestone they pass every day. "Okay," he asked. I nodded back. My mouth formed a word I did not say, almost. He handed me coffee from the thermos into a paper cup with a snowman on it. The coffee was strong and tasted like a story that has an ending. "Some folks," he said softly, "it pushes harder." He glanced at my hands, saw they were shaking, and did not ask why. "We tell people not to talk back to the glass," he went on, eyes on the carpet, Because the glass is a good mimic. It learns the shape of your voice. It makes a mask. If you keep speaking long enough, it will fit, I asked him, because asking felt like fighting sleep. What is it? He scratched his cheek, a quiet, tired move. A hunger that prefers invitations, he said after a moment. A need that dresses up like need. He gave a small smile that did not reach his eyes. Maybe it's just winter. Maybe winter wants to come in? He shrugged. Either way, the rule works. He left me with the coffee and a blanket from the lost and found blue with little bears. I wrapped it around my shoulders and sat by the table. The heater warmed the room in a way that felt like a decision love makes. Slow, ordinary, stubborn. I did not look at the window again until daylight had climbed on my shoulder like a cat. When the sun finally pushed into the parking lot and made the snow shine like a clean plate, I opened the curtain wide. The footprints were gone. The sentence was gone. Only smooth white and a set of tire tracks from the plow, cutting 2 neat lines out to the street. The motel sign looked smaller in day. The rooms looked like a row of mouths closed in peace. I packed my bag. I left the notepad with the 2 rules under the lamp because maybe the next person would need them when the wind decided to remember its song. At the desk, the clerk slid my receipt across. He looked up and held my gaze in a way that felt like hand to shoulder. "You did fine," he said, and it sounded like more than about the night. "Safe travels." I thanked him and stepped into the cold. The air smelled clean, like the world had been scrubbed and set out to dry. On the highway out of town, I pulled over at a turnout and looked back once. The briarwood sat quiet against the trees, a square shape learning to be small under a big sky. My phone buzzed with a message from my sister. "Drive safe, soup waiting, leave the heavy for later." I smiled without letting go of anything. I drove that night far from the motel. I dreamed of glass. Not a window, more like water you can see through but can't go into. In the dream, I stood on one side and someone I loved stood on the other, and we both lifted our hands at once, palms meeting without touch. A voice that did not belong to either of us spoke from the seam. "Please." In the dream, I lowered my hand. I let the voice fall away like breath on a mirror. I said aloud, to the glass and to the room and to the part of me that thinks the right door will make everything easy, "I hear you." Then softer, "I cannot let you in." When I woke, morning was loud with birds and traffic and a neighbor's radio. Ordinary noises, untalented at pretending to be anything but what they are. I made coffee and opened the real window and let the air walk in. On the table I wrote my own 3rd rule for days when winter comes in other shapes. We can talk through the door. Then I went to my sister's kitchen and let soup be a spell that did not need words. And when my phone buzzed with an unknown number, I let it hum until it forgot my name. If this gave chills, tap like and subscribe for more true Halloween horrors every day. Share this with someone who leaves a nightlight on. Drop a comment with the scariest knock ever heard, and the next video may feature it.